begin from the start, okay? So before I begin, I would like to say that this is a second-hand sari, a one that is used and discarded by someone else, and I'm doing that to send the message that old is fashionable. Now, today's topic is how stopping fights with your husband can help fight climate change. Interesting, isn't it? Many of us dream of a fairy tale kind of love. I did too when I was young, and I did find my prince charming. Except within a matter of just a few months, the fairy tale turned into a scary tale. Now, it's not that we didn't love each other, we loved each other a lot, but still we ended up with some fights that did leave some lasting scars. Love. Have we ever wondered why do we need love at all in our lives? According to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he puts love and belonging right next to our physiological needs like food and safety. What it means is that we need love as much as we need food and shelter. In today's world, we can say that a significant percentage of the population has such an abundance of food that overeating is a problem. And some of us have pretty big shelters too. But can we say that our lives are filled with an abundance of love, that we overlove everybody, and our hearts have become as big as the infrastructures that we create for ourselves? Why did I choose to talk about love today? For that, I need to give a small background on my journey so far. For that, I need to explain my journey so far. I'm a medical doctor by graduation and a senior bureaucrat belonging to the Indian Administrative Service. And these three things changed my life. Number one are the Bega tribes of the central Indian forest. Now, these are these wonderful human beings whom I would call living human fossils who taught me how our lives would have been in nature if all these technological developments weren't there. They gave me a wisdom that no amount of the highest levels of education and training that I had ever gave me. The wisdom from Mother Nature herself. They taught me to shed my urban arrogance and start respecting and appreciating the superior yet subtle wisdom. The second thing is that I got fascinated by the human mind, and so I did an MSc psychology from a university in the UK. But more than that, there was this science which are called the experiential sciences. Once again, something not taught usually in our schools and universities, because this science was the one which gave me comprehensive and a holistic approach to human mind, happiness, well-being, and purpose of life. As a matter of fact, yoga and meditation stem from these sciences. What I'm trying to do here is today I'm attempting to create a connection between love, nature, happiness, and sustainable lifestyle for climate change. I'm actually trying to stop my own head from spinning, and I sincerely hope that I do not leave a bunch of spinning heads while trying to make this connection. But we can try, right? Are you guys with me? Yes? Okay, so I'm going to talk about three aspects that establish this connection. The first one among them is responsibility. At the core of love, nature, happiness, and climate change for that matter is responsibility. Let us see how this responsibility, the human responsibility, evolved over time. Before the dawn of civilization, we were all living like the Begas in a forest. The love I learned from the Begas, the way they loved their forest, taught me that love need not be something that is just limited to a handful of few people. They loved their entire ecosystem. They loved their forest. They took responsibility for every tree, every grain of sand, every rabbit, every lion or tiger for that matter. And we were like that too before the dawn of civilization. But with the dawn of the civilization, our responsibility shrank to just the lands we possessed and the community that depended on this land. Governments came and this responsibility shrank, saying that land, forests, and ecosystems not people's responsibility. Yet, we still took responsibility for the community. When townships came, this responsibility shrank to just my own close family circle. When cities came, this responsibility shrank to just my spouse and my kids. We didn't even want to take responsibility for our parents. Then they said, no kids. Dings, we became double income, no kids. Now we are saying, no life partner either, no spouse. This is not to judge or question an individual's right to choose, but it's just a small perspective for us to think or introspect as collective humanity. What I'm saying is that today we have come to such a point that we are not even ready to take responsibility for our own actions. So we say, I'll be a happy, responsible consumer, damaging the planet in whichever way my desires dictate. You know, can you see how a heart that was able to accommodate the entire world has just shrunk to just me? This is what modern world has done to our hearts. How can you expect a heart that shrank so much to ever find the capacity to love and find happiness? When we stopped taking responsibility for nature, we actually forgot the importance of taking responsibility at all, and now love eludes all of us. The point I'm trying to say here is we need to expand this circle of responsibility. Start from a few people and expand it to the whole world. And you know what? Even research says that when we have a clear purpose of life that is beyond the confines of one's self-interest, our lifespan increases. Now, having said that, let's come to my second aspect, inner growth. Now, before the dawn of industrialization and commercialization, this kind of inner growth in a human being was given one of the topmost priorities. Philosophies and philosophers across the world gave insightful wisdom in how a human being can grow from their inside. India, particularly in India, this intuitive knowledge grew into a vast science. To explain how this experiential science works, let me give a small example. Have you been to Marina Beach in Chennai, any of you? I grew up in Chennai, and when I was a child and I was standing in the waters in the beach, I won't be able to see my own feet. But compare this with the clear water beaches of Lakshadweep, where I went for my IAS training. While I was kayaking on 15 feet of seawater, I could still see the seabed clearly. How is this possible? Simple, because water filled with muddy particles obscure our vision, whereas clear, clean water enhances our vision, right? The same applies to our human mind too. In today's high-tech, busy world, we keep filling our heads with toxic emotions like stress, hatred, anger, fear, anxiety, frustration, addiction, greed. Experiential sciences call this the egoic mind. What it says is that when we leave out these mental impurities, so as to call it, what will remain will be our pure mind, our true nature, more like a permanent state of love, peace, and happiness. What experiential sciences say is that it's only this kind of a growth that will help in finding lasting peace and happiness. Techniques from experiential science, you can think of it as nothing but a vacuum cleaner to remove this mental dust. And this is what started happening between me and my husband when we started meditating. When our egoic minds started subsiding, or more like the human ego started subsiding, we started experiencing more and more happiness, and most of all, more and more love. Today, I can say that we have such an abundance of love in our family that is more than the fairy tale that I dreamt when I was young. To grow and become something better than before is one of the most powerful instincts given by Mother Nature to us. A seed wants to grow and metamorphose into a tree. A caterpillar wants to grow and transcend into a butterfly. Mother Nature wants human beings to grow and transcend into something beyond our imagination. The only problem is the industrialization and commercialization gave its own definition of growth, happiness, contentment, and purpose of life, and literally sold us the illusion that monetary growth, material growth, and career growth will give us happiness. The problem is, running and sprinting behind this illusion is now giving us heart attacks in our 20s. We all know that we need to prioritize our inner growth. So from my personal experience, my only appeal today is that please remember this arrow. Only this kind of a success inside us will help us achieve lasting happiness. Now, we all know that we need to prioritize our inner growth, right? Yet, why is it we don't do it? Have you ever thought about it? Now, before coming to that, let me make a statement. Without change, there is no growth. And there is no growth without change. And I don't know if you have seen this movie, Gods Must Be Crazy. This is my favorite dialogue. The civilized man refuses to adapt to his environment. Instead, he started making the environment adapt to him. So he built huge cities, roads, vehicles, and machinery. And the more he improved his surroundings, the more he complicated his life. And now his children are sentenced to 20 years of education just to learn how to survive in this complex and hazardous habitat. This is a typical example of how human beings would change the entire world but refuse to change ourselves. Now let's look at the evolutionary history behind this. At a time where every one of our behavior has to be changed as per Mother Nature's will, we have now come to a point where we do not even want to change a little bit for the sake of our own loved ones. Our inability to change is not only destroying human relationships, but it is destroying the planet. This is what brings me to the next aspect of my connection, our resistance to change. The day we decided to change the course of the rivers and the contours of the mountain, but not to change ourselves, this resistance to change has become a very strong phenomenon in the human mind. Which is why we will wait for some magical technology and somebody like Hermione would come and say, Wingardium Leviosa, and levitate all the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere into the space. Because our mental resistance wants us to believe that we need not change. Technology will change all the planetary problems, and we can continue our irresponsible behavior over here. Or we would find it rather easy to find a new planet by building state-of-the-art rockets so that we can escape the irresponsible behaviors on this planet. My only question is, will everyone sitting in this room get a new ticket? Will everyone sitting in this room get a ticket to this new planet? If you're confident that you'll get this ticket, you can call me an idiot and stop listening to me. But for those of you who feel that it might not be possible to get a new ticket to the new planet, let me say that we don't have a choice but to break our resistance, our mental resistance, and make things right on this planet. For that, we need to understand something about the mental resistance in the human brain. For example, whenever we need to process new information for forming a new habit, this process happens in something called the prefrontal cortex, okay? But the problem is, all the old habits and old information would have established old neuronal pathways in something called the basal ganglia, the red one. So, imagine this prefrontal cortex as wife, and imagine the basal ganglia like a husband. What will happen when the wife tries to teach a new habit to the husband? The husband will become irritated, angry, and frustrated, right? What? I'm not allowed one joke at husbands when all the time I get exposed to WhatsApp trolls targeting wives? Anyway, so this is what makes change a difficult process. So this difficulty activates something called the extended amygdala, which is the one which gives us the sense of fear, frustration, and anger. So neurobiologically, change is a very scary process. This is mostly an unconscious process, but this is why most of us avoid processing any new information or believe in anything new because especially if that information challenges our existing beliefs, attitudes, behaviors, or lifestyle for that matter. This is why we still hear people saying that climate change is a hoax, love and marriage is a hoax, because all of this demands us to break our mental resistance and change ourselves. But the good news for those tough nuts like me is that meditation, scientifically it has been found that meditation helps us establish new neural pathways so that we can change ourselves without getting scared or, for that matter, angry or frustrated for that matter. Now, before I conclude, I'm going to leave with this modern day vicious cycle. This is what's happening in our lives right now. Love is declining everywhere, and it creates emotional pain, and it creates insecurity and mental restlessness. And this mental restlessness is getting us addicted to the zillion avenues of addiction that this consumerist world offers. And it's not just gadgets or entertainment or food for that matter, but stuff, things, shopping for stuff and things, and not to forget branded stuff. As I see it, the entire survival, the very survival of the consumerist world that we have created for ourselves depends on our addictions rather than happiness. So this has ended up with a humongous mental pollution. And it is this mental pollution that is causing environmental pollution everywhere. All I'm saying is that this vicious cycle then creates this kind of a mental restlessness and wants us to prove ourselves as per the consumerist definition of success and makes us run everywhere, just like this dog trying to catch its tail, reaching nowhere near the destination of happiness. My only point is that we need to break this vicious cycle. And we need to, all I'm trying to say here is that only the inner growth will enhance our happiness. It will enhance our capacity to receive and love. And only when human beings become an embodiment of love, peace, and happiness, we will create a happy and healthy planet. And let me say that it's not very difficult. All we have to do is rewire our brain and transcend into the butterflies that all of us can become. You, me, and every one of us. Can we make just one small decision today? Can we? Let us take a firm decision to develop the courage of a caterpillar. Thank you.